Today, we stand together to reclaim our future. I am running for President of the United States. We will make this nation greater than ever before.
This is just the beginning. I'm going to conquer this city.
Towering cranes reshape the iconic skyline. Hundreds of active sites push the city higher.
Hold that load, bring it down 2 inches.
We are completely out of time.
There must be another way.
Sell everything before it's too late!
All cameras, hold your positions. Clear the frame, going live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
True luxury isn't just about where you stand. It's about how far you can see.
Today, we stand together to reclaim our future. I am running for President of the United States.
A common way to analyze the Trump presidency is to look for a traditional political ideology, but tracking his actions through a partisan lens leaves gaps. The decisions map much closer to a strict corporate behavioral algorithm. Donald Trump's governance model was a direct translation of the playbook he developed in 1970s New York real estate, mass media branding, and aggressive litigation. He weaponized 3 specific private sector mechanisms: transactional leverage, hyper-litigation, and brand licensing. To understand how this works in practice, we have to trace this tactical evolution from its origins in Manhattan real estate all the way to the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That trajectory points directly to the maximalist executive actions and sweeping economic overhauls of his 2025 second term. The Trump administration operated as a scalable, hostile corporate takeover, applied directly to the America First agenda. The testing ground for this tactical development was the Manhattan real estate market of the 1970s and 1980s. Here, he met his mentor, Roy Cohn. Cohn operated on a specific logic. Every relationship is entirely transactional and inherently combative. One of the primary tools in this environment was litigation. Lawsuits were filed regardless of the cost or the actual likelihood of winning in court. The goal was to force favorable settlements through sheer legal pressure. Over the course of his private sector career, Trump and his businesses were involved in more than 4,000 lawsuits and liens. Litigation was a primary negotiation tactic. The financial model backing this up relied on heavy debt and aggressive tax abatements. His first major Manhattan venture, the Commodore Hotel, was financed with a $400 million city property tax abatement. This was paired with the structural use of shell companies. By billing services with significant markups, the organization artificially inflated property valuations while simultaneously lowering their overall tax burden. Eventually, this strategy expanded beyond physical assets. He decoupled his name from the actual buildings, pivoting to mass media and brand licensing. Reality television offered a way to bypass traditional media gatekeepers. He manufactured a highly curated persona, presenting himself as a super-rich chief executive to millions of viewers. This media persona successfully masked the reality of his operations, a blunt force legal and tax minimization strategy, ready to be scaled up. When he took office in 2017, those private sector tax avoidance strategies were mapped directly onto federal economic policy. The centerpiece was the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which drastically reduced tax rates for corporations and high-income individuals. This chart tracks the resulting macroeconomic impact. By the end of his first term, the U.S. national debt had increased by 39%, driving the debt-to-GDP ratio to a post-World War II high. Foreign policy underwent a similar translation. Treaty allies and adversaries alike were treated purely transactionally. International agreements were evaluated on a strict cost-benefit basis. The administration initiated a trade war with China. Tariffs served as a direct application of his leverage through conflict negotiation style. Domestically, he relied on unilateral executive orders to achieve rapid deregulation. This included rolling back more than 100 federal environmental rules governing emissions, pollution, and infrastructure. But these unilateral executive actions consistently encountered bottlenecks. When they collided with the traditional administrative state and the federal courts, the rapid pace of deregulation slowed. His initial travel bans targeting Muslim-majority countries resulted in nationwide injunctions. His family separation policy at the border faced immense logistical and legal friction, ultimately forcing the administration into a retreat. The first term proved that his private sector tactics could disrupt public policy, yet they were ultimately constrained by the structural friction of orthodox government checks and balances. The objective of the 2025 second term was to systematically bypass the administrative friction that bottlenecked his previous policies. This maps the traditional hierarchy of the U.S. federal government. The administration weaponized the unitary executive theory to restructure the civil service. By firing over 30,000 federal employees, they left only direct lines of authority to the executive branch. With that friction removed, he signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It functioned as an unconstrained scale-up of his commercial real estate tax strategies. The bill made the 2017 tax cuts permanent, removed tax credits for renewable energy, and severely cut funding for Medicaid and SNAP. This ledger shows the Congressional Budget Office's projection of the act. It allocates roughly $4.5 trillion in tax deductions, mostly for high-income brackets, which offsets directly into a $3.4 trillion increase in the federal budget deficit. By dismantling the administrative state, the second term cleared the path for unchecked maximalist executive authority. This created a new macroeconomic model. The administration shifted away from conservative free market orthodoxy and established a system of protectionist state capitalism. Internationally, this meant imposing global tariffs at the highest level seen since the 1930s Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, affecting nearly all major trading partners. Domestically, the federal government began taking direct equity stakes in private U.S. corporations. These economic policies were paired with the extensive use of national emergency declarations and the targeting of political opponents and civil society groups. This diagram compares his private and public sector records. Just as his real estate deals generated thousands of lawsuits, his unilateral executive actions generated over 550 lawsuits challenging their legality. The behavioral algorithm remains identical. He replaced traditional globalized free trade with a highly transactional, state-controlled economic engine, driven forward by hyperlitigation. The pre-2016 Republican Party relied on free trade and legislative deregulation. That orthodoxy no longer exists. It has been replaced by a doctrine of right-wing populist state capitalism, enforced directly by executive purges and fierce protectionism. For years, the public's understanding of his goals was built on a manufactured media persona of a reality television executive, but his execution relied strictly on the blunt force legal and transactional tools honed decades earlier in the New York real estate market. The legacy of these two terms proves that the mechanisms of executive authority can be completely rewired using the strategies of a corporate hostile takeover. The American presidency now functions as a transactional unitary executive.